10 days before the group's 10th anniversary celebration, I was abducted and beaten unconscious. When Fini rushed to the hospital, I was still semi-conscious, my mind clouded in a fog of disorientation. I heard his sigh echoing through the quiet ward, followed by the soft click of his secretary stepping inside. Mr. Yi, the men who abducted Mrs. Yi have been disposed of. No one will ever find a trace of them. Good. Have the doctors been arranged? Yes, sir. Mrs. Yi will be sent abroad tonight for the surgery. Perfect. Make sure she doesn't suspect a thing. Rest assured, Mr. Yi. It's just. Spit it out. I still need to wipe Willow's face. It's just that Mrs. Yi will have to live in darkness for the rest of her life. That's surely more agonizing than death itself. I will take good care of her for the rest of my days. I promised Oilia I would cure her eyes. I have no choice but to wrong Willow. Tears streamed silently from the corners of my eyes, mixing with the dried blood on my cheeks, invisible to anyone but myself. So the husband who had seemingly loved me deeply all these years was the very man who had inflicted the worst pain upon me. If his heart belonged to another woman, then I would grant him his wish. That's enough. No more talk. Proceed with our original plan. Take Willow's corneas and transplant them into Oilia's eyes. Oilia once told me that Willow's eyes are the most beautiful in the world. This is the only thing I can do for her. The secretary frowned, clearly opposed to Fini's ruthless decision. Mr. Yi, shouldn't you reconsider? After all, she is your wife. If she ever finds out you took her eyes to give to someone else, she will lose her mind. Furthermore, Mrs. Yi is pregnant. What? Willow is pregnant. Yes, sir, this is the hospital's latest report. She is nearly 2 months along. The doctors said it's a miracle she managed to keep the baby after such a brutal assault. But the child will never survive a cornea extraction surgery. Sigh. I truly owe Willow this time. But we will have plenty more children in the future. Inform the team abroad, ignore the baby. Arrange the surgery immediately. Fini picked up a towel and gently wiped my body, his movements careful and tender, his voice dripping with false affection. Willow, this is the only time I will ever wrong you. From now on, I will cherish you with all my heart. I promised Oilia I would find her the most beautiful eyes in the world. But she insisted on having yours. I had no other choice. The secretary standing behind Fini let out a long, helpless sigh and shook his head in despair. Mrs. Yi has loved you devotedly all these years. She helped you climb the ladder of success and achieve everything you have today. Can't you just reconsider? Enough. Tell them to prepare for the surgery. And remember, clean up every loose end. Do not let Willow find out. She will be heartbroken if she does. The secretary said nothing more, merely bowing his head and silently exiting the ward. Then I heard Fini pick up his phone and dial a number. When you reach Thailand, you will receive a large sum of money, enough to live a life of luxury for the rest of your days. Never set foot in this country again. I bit down hard on my lip, forcing back tears, afraid to make a single sound. Fini continued to wipe my face over and over again. But not a shred of love remained in my heart for him. All I felt was a bone-deep, soul-crushing disappointment. All these years Fini's love for me had been nothing but a lie. He had only ever wanted my eyes. This abduction was no accident, it had been a carefully orchestrated trap he set just for me. For Oilia he was willing to go to such monstrous lengths. Once I thought I had found the most wonderful man in the world. Little did I know that for 10 years I had been living in a web of lies and deceit. Now I had even been reduced to the point of losing my eyes to another woman. I refused to submit. I tried to fight back, but they injected me with a sedative to subdue me. Before being wheeled into the operating room, Fini gripped my hand tightly, his voice thick with feigned emotion. Willow, don't worry. I will take care of you for the rest of your life. Even if you lose your eyes, I will love you forever. My vision flickered between light and dark, then plunged into an endless void of silence. When I opened my eyes again, I could see nothing. It wasn't just my eyes that were gone. My child was gone too. Fini sat by my bed for an entire day and night. When he saw me wake up, he burst into tears of joy. He pressed his lips to my forehead, his voice soft as silk. Willow, you're awake. Does your body still hurt? If it hurts, bite me. It will make you feel better. His tender words were the same as always, but now they sounded as cold as ice to my ears. He had taken my eyes for Oilia. He had sacrificed our child for her. What a devoted man he was. I smiled and shook my head, lifting my hand to caress his cheek. I don't hurt anymore. But why can't I see anything? Willow, I'm so sorry. I failed to protect you. You were kidnapped by a gang of ruthless thugs. They beat you savagely and left you with severe injuries. Even your eyes couldn't be saved. It's not your fault. I was just careless. I'm tired and want to rest. You should go home too, take a shower and get some sleep. Seeing that I didn't react with extreme distress, Fini finally relaxed, promising to pick up some documents from home and return to accompany me soon. In his hurry, he accidentally left his phone behind. I picked up the phone and ran my fingers over its surface repeatedly. I remembered this phone was a wedding gift from me. He had cherished it all these years and refused to replace it. By accident, I pressed a button and WeChat voice messages began to play. Brother Finn, where are you? I miss you so much. Brother Finn, will you spend Valentine's Day with me this year? I'm all alone and my eyes are still not well. I feel so lonely. Brother Finn, why aren't you replying to my messages? Is Willow with you? A string of subsequent voice messages followed, all sent by Oilia. At the very bottom was Fini's reply, be good baby. I'm in a meeting right now. I'll go see you tonight and bring you your favorite strawberry shortcake. By the way, there's progress on the thing you mentioned. I'll tell you all about it when I come over. I recalled he had once said he hated being disturbed while working. Only now did I realize, it wasn't that he hated being disturbed. He just hated being disturbed by me. But when it came to the woman he truly loved, he was willing to bend all his rules. I shook my head bitterly and turned off Fini's phone. Then I groped around to dial my grandparents' number in the United States, asking them to arrange for me to go abroad immediately. They didn't ask any questions. They could faintly hear the sorrow in my voice and promised to handle all the procedures quickly and send someone to pick me up. After hanging up the phone with my grandparents, I drifted off to a deep, tearful sleep. When I woke up again, I was roused by the whispered gossip of two young nurses outside my ward. How pitiful she is. To have her eyes taken out alive and lose her baby on top of that. I know. I heard Mr. Ye's first love only has a mild case of night blindness. It's not even that serious. That's right. But Mr. Ye still took his own wife's eyes just to cure her. Then I heard Fini's angry voice. What nonsense are you two whispering about? You're disturbing my wife's rest. Get out of here right now. I was startled by his roar and opened my eyes abruptly, only to be pulled into his tight embrace. Did these two nurses wake you up? I shook my head. No, I was sleeping soundly. I only woke up when I heard your voice. Fini let out a soft sigh of relief and held me even closer to his chest. Even now he was still playing the role of a loving husband. And I had no desire to expose his hypocrisy. I just made an excuse of feeling unwell and wriggled out of his embrace. Willow, I just went back to the company to get the equity transfer agreement. I've decided to transfer 40% of the company's shares to you as financial security for the rest of your life. As soon as you're discharged from the hospital, we'll go to have it notarized. A sharp pang of sadness pierced my heart. I remembered when we first got together he was a penniless young man with nothing to his name. After our marriage, I used my grandparents' influence and resources to help him climb the corporate ladder step by step until he reached the heights of success he enjoyed today. Now he wanted to buy my eyes and my child with a mere 40% stake in the company. He had probably forgotten that this entire group rightfully belonged to me in the first place. At this moment our fingers were intertwined, but I couldn't suppress the wave of nausea that washed over me. After a long period of silence, Fini finally spoke again. Willow, the group's 10th anniversary celebration is tomorrow. But your eyes. Let my sister Oilia take my place. We look identical. The media will never notice the difference. I knew exactly what Fini was thinking, and I had no energy left to argue with him. It was better to take the initiative and propose it myself than to listen to him spout a bunch of meaningless excuses. At the very least it would grant me some peace and quiet. Fini was extremely surprised by my sudden change of attitude toward Oilia. After all, our relationship had never been amicable before. But since his goal had been achieved, he had no interest in probing the reason behind my compliance. He merely stroked my forehead and said affectionately, "Our Willow is such a sensible girl." The phone rang. It was a call from the Public Security Bureau. My expedited passport required my personal confirmation. Willow, why are you applying for a passport? I could hear the faint note of alarm in Fini's voice. Oh, I applied for it a while ago. I originally planned to travel after the group's celebration. Now it seems I may never get the chance to go. He didn't ask any further questions, simply pulling me back into his arms and murmuring softly, Willow, you still have a chance. From now on I will be your eyes. I will take you to see all the most beautiful scenery in the world. Husband, I want to leave the hospital. I want to go home. I couldn't bear to listen to his empty sweet words any longer, so I turned my head away and whispered. The arms holding me suddenly tightened. But your body hasn't fully recovered yet. You shouldn't move around. I rubbed my forehead against his chest, speaking in a coquettish tone. 3. With you and the nanny at home I will be taken care of much better. Please let me go back. Fini's men were stationed outside my hospital room around the clock. It would be impossible for my grandparents to get me out of here. I had to leave the hospital. After much coaxing and pleading, Fini finally relented and took me home. 3. On the way home, Fini suddenly slipped a bracelet onto my left wrist. I ran my fingers over its surface carefully, a bitter realization dawning on me. I had seen this exact pentagram bracelet before, on Oilia's social media. Fini claimed he'd picked it out specially for me. But I knew instinctively that it was nothing more than a discarded trinket Oilia had no use for. I closed my eyes and leaned back against the seat, too weary to utter a single word. It was high time this elaborate charade he'd crafted for me came to an end. Back at the villa, Fini carried me to the bedroom, then hurried off without a backward glance. I groped my way out of bed, intending to gather up my handbags and jewelry to sell. My grandparents were hardly short of money, but I refused to let Oilia profit from any of my belongings. Just as I reached the bedroom door, I heard 2 maids whispering outside. That woman in Mr. Ye's study, she looks identical to Mrs. Ye, doesn't she? Haven't you heard? She's Mrs. Ye's twin sister. What? How outrageous is that? Oh, it's nothing. From the way Mr. Ye dotes on her, he's clearly head over heels in love. Mrs. Ye has always hated others touching her things. Only a select few are allowed to clean her walk-in closet. But the other day I saw Mrs. Ye's sister in there, trying on all her clothes and jewelry. It would have been one thing if she'd just worn them for fun in private. But she actually went to the study and paraded around in them for Mr. Ye to see. And the kicker? Mr. Ye even praised her, saying she looked better in them than Mrs. Ye does. Tell me that man isn't smitten. A bitter laugh bubbled up in my chest. So everyone had known about Fini and Oilia's sordid little affair all along. Everyone except me, the fool left in the dark. Once the maids had finally wandered off, I groped my way toward the study. Before I even reached the door, their voices drifted out, clear as day. You've suffered for so many years. Now that you're finally divorced and your eyes are cured, I can finally rest easy. Brother Finn, don't say that. Even though you weren't by my side all these years, you gave me everything you had. I never once felt unhappy. Fini let out a soft sigh, his voice brimming with tender affection. It's all my fault for making you wait so long. By the way, I bought you this necklace to celebrate your new lease on life. Oilia took the necklace, her tinkling laughter ringing through the closed door and piercing my ears like shards of glass. Why do you keep buying me gifts? You've already given me so many luxury items. If sister finds out, she'll surely be jealous. With that, Oilia leaned against Fini's chest, tilting her head to signal him to fasten the necklace for her. Fini smiled fondly, his movements gentle and deliberate, and finished with a soft compliment. You look stunning. Just then the housekeeper, seemingly in a hurry to report something important to Fini, rushed toward the study, only to collide with me hidden in the shadows. Hearing the commotion outside, Fini hurried out of the room. Willow, what are you doing here? Don't misunderstand. Your sister just got divorced. She came to tell us the news. How absurd. He was my sister. If she'd gotten divorced, shouldn't she have come to tell me, her own flesh and blood, instead of sneaking into her brother-in-law's study to flirt shamelessly? At the sound of our voices, Oilia also stepped out, a smug smile playing on her lips as she addressed me. Sister, long time no see. I nodded faintly at them, swallowing the tears that threatened to spill, and whispered softly, I'm fine. I just slept too long and wanted to stretch my legs. I don't know how I ended up here. You two carry on. I'll head back now. With that, I gripped the handrail tightly and slowly made my way back to the bedroom. Fini, fearing I was angry, quickly grabbed my arm. Willow, don't overthink this. Oilia came specifically to see you. She just happened to pass by my study and stopped to say hello. I almost laughed out loud at his flustered tone. To cover up his affair with Oilia, he would spout any ridiculous lie that came to mind. He had hired thugs to kidnap me, ordered my eyes to be cut out, and even let our child die, all to make room for Oilia to take my place. Now that his scheme had finally succeeded, who exactly was he putting on this pathetic show for? Don't worry about me. I'm just a little tired and want to go back to rest. At my words, he finally relaxed, letting out a sigh of relief. But before I could even utter the word no, Oilia's dramatic wail pierced the air. Oh no, Brother Finn. My stomach hurts so bad. Please come quickly. The hand Fini had just placed on my waist instantly pulled away. And then I heard his voice, soft and concerned, directed at her. Oilia, are you all right? I didn't look back. One step at a time, I stumbled back to the bedroom, tripping and falling several times along the way, but never uttering a single cry of pain. For at the anniversary celebration, due to my impaired mobility, Fini had arranged for me to wait in a private VIP lounge. Meanwhile, he and Oilia walked hand in hand through the grand hall, toasting the guests and accepting interviews from the media. Mr. Yi, Mrs. Yi is absolutely breathtaking. No wonder you've been so protective of her, keeping her out of the public eye all these years. Ah, you flatter me. In my heart, my wife is 100 times more beautiful than any goddess. As he spoke, Fini reached out and gently caressed Oilia's cheek. The pent-up grief and humiliation that had festered in my heart for so long finally burst its banks in that moment, threatening to drown me completely. I roughly tore the pentagram bracelet from my wrist and hurled it to the floor with all my strength. The next second, the door to the lounge swung open and in walked Oilia. How does it feel, sister? Being blind must be absolutely miserable, isn't it? Who would have thought that after all these years you're still no match for me? So what if your grandparents dote on you? Now you're just a useless cripple. Your eyes are in my sockets and your husband is holding my hand. Oh, I almost feel sorry for you. I groped my way out of the wheelchair, my teeth clenched so tight they ached, and spat out each word with venom. Oilia, don't get too cocky. Karma has its eyes on you. All the evil deeds you've committed will come back to haunt you sooner or later. Oh, what evil deeds have I done? It wasn't me who cut out your eyes or killed your baby. It was your precious husband. I merely whispered a few words in his ear, that's all. Her words sent me trembling with rage. I staggered toward her, ready to give her a piece of my mind, only to be interrupted by her shrill scream. In an instant, Fini came charging into the room, shoving me backward with brute force. My ribs slammed into the edge of the table, a searing pain shooting through my body that left me disoriented and gasping for breath. Willow, have you lost your mind? Oilia is your own flesh and blood sister. How could you be so cruel to her? I couldn't see a thing, had no idea what on earth was going on. Helpless, I clutched my stomach and stumbled, clinging to the table for support. Why on earth did you stab her with a knife? What? I stabbed Oilia? That was impossible. Even though I hated her with every fiber of my being, I knew full well that attacking her would be illegal. I opened my mouth to explain myself, but Oilia's weak, trembling voice cut me off. Brother Finn, please don't blame sister. She's just angry and frustrated, she has nowhere else to vent her pain. I stood there, disheveled and humiliated, a cold chill creeping into my bones. Fini, is this what you truly think of me? Let me tell you this, I never laid a finger on her. As for why she's injured, I think she knows the answer better than anyone. Fini frowned, a flicker of hesitation crossing his face. What are you implying? That Oilia stabbed herself just to frame you? That's preposterous. She came here today to attend the group celebration in your place. Instead of thanking her, you let your jealousy get the better of you and hurt her. You're completely unreasonable. Apologize to Oilia now. Veins throbbed on my forehead, my hands curling into tight fists. I was about to give him a piece of my mind when Oilia's voice piped up again, oozing with false sincerity. It's all right, Brother Finn. Why would sister ever apologize to me? Ever since we were little, I've always let her have her way. She's always been the apple of the family's eye after all. 5. I don't know what I did to upset sister today. But sister, for brother Finn's sake, I don't care about being right or wrong. I just want to put this whole ugly incident behind us. Please don't quarrel with brother Finn anymore. It's all my fault. Oilia collapsed into Fin's arms, her eyes brimming with crocodile tears. Fin's heart ached for her. He gently wiped away her tears, then turned to me, his voice cold and filled with disgust. Look how reasonable Oilia is. Unlike you, arrogant, selfish and consumed by jealousy. A deafening roar echoed in my head, as if I'd been plunged into the deepest, darkest abyss. The years of love and devotion I'd shared with Fini had finally been reduced to nothing more than a cruel, twisted joke. In front of everyone, he carried Oilia in his arms and walked away, leaving me stranded in my own personal hell. Humiliated and broken, I stumbled out of the VIP lounge and made my way back to the Ye family villa alone. As soon as I stepped through the door, my phone rang. It was my grandparents calling from overseas. They told me that in 2 days' time, they would send someone to pick me up from the Ye family and take me away. They also brought me some much-needed good news. They had already contacted a leading ophthalmologist abroad, who was certain he could restore my sight. I sat on the edge of the bed, running my fingers over the small suitcase I'd packed. I realized with a bitter pang that after 10 years of marriage to Fini, I had given him every last bit of my love and devotion, yet all I had to show for it was this tiny bag of belongings to call my own. Over the next 2 days, Fini didn't return home. I heard he'd been staying at the hospital, personally nursing Oilia back to health. And I didn't make any attempt to contact him either. But on the night before I was set to leave, his phone call finally came. Willow, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spoken to you so harshly the other day. Be a good girl and wait for me at home. Once I've sorted out Ophelia's affairs, I'll come right back to you. I've prepared a surprise for you. Just wait for me. I said nothing, listening silently to his empty promises before hanging up the phone and turning it off for good. For Oilia, he had stolen my eyes, killed my child and wrongfully accused me without a shred of evidence. Now that he'd finally gotten what he wanted, now that he'd successfully driven me away and could marry Oilia without a hitch, why was he still putting on this act of being a loving husband? I was tired. Tired of playing his games, tired of being his pawn. This time I was going to live for myself. Just before I boarded the plane, I deleted every single one of Fini's contact details from my phone, vowing never to lay eyes on him again, not in this life, not in any other. At that very moment, sitting by Ophelia's hospital bed, Fini was overcome by a sudden, inexplicable sense of dread. He couldn't pinpoint the source of his unease, only that he felt an urgent need to go home to check on Willow. After all, she hadn't contacted him once in days. In the past, whenever Fini was away on business, she would bomb his phone with calls and messages if he so much as took a few minutes to reply. Her sudden coldness sent a chill of fear down his spine. Having comforted Oilia, Fini was just about to get up and leave when his secretary burst into the room, his face ashen and covered in sweat. Mr. Ye. It's terrible news. Mrs. Ye is gone. Gone? How is that possible? She's blind, how could she leave? Where did she go? It's true. The villa's housekeeper saw her get into a black BMW with her own eyes. As soon as the words left the secretary's mouth, all the color drained from Fini's face. Beads of sweat broke out on his forehead, cold and clammy as a terrible realization began to sink in. 6. Cast aside all decorum and concern for Oilia, he suddenly grabbed his secretary by the shoulders, his voice cracking with urgency. Find her. Now. Check every high-speed rail and plane ticket. Spare no effort to bring Willow back to me. Oilia was startled by his violent outburst, quickly reaching out to pull him back. Brother Finn, calm down first. Sister can't see a thing, where could she possibly go? She's probably just trying to scare you. You don't need to worry so much. In the past, Fini would have readily agreed with Ophelia's words. But this time, the gnawing unease in his chest grew stronger by the second, making it impossible for him to stay calm as he usually did. He roughly shook off Ophelia's hand, then snapped at her, his tone icy with anger. Willow is your sister. She's blind right now. Don't you feel the slightest bit worried about her? Ophelia's mouth fell open in shock, clearly not expecting Fini's attitude to take such a drastic turn so quickly. Then they heard Fini's trembling voice as he barked orders at his secretary. "Hurry up and find her. Search every corner of the earth if you have to. I want Willow brought back safely no matter what." The secretary, terrified out of his wits, didn't dare to waste another second, turning on his heel and sprinting out of the hospital room. Meanwhile, Fini rushed back to the Yi family villa, desperate to find any clue that might lead him to Willow's whereabouts. As soon as he stepped into the bedroom, his eyes fell on the wedding photo of him and Willow, lying shattered on the floor. Bending down to look closer, he saw it was completely destroyed. He could hardly fathom how she, a blind woman, had managed to take the large photo down from the wall and smash it to pieces. It was clear that this time Willow was truly, utterly disappointed in him. He slumped down on the floor, his shoulders hunched over in defeat, as he replayed the past 10 years of their lives together in his mind. They had started from nothing, endured countless hardships side by side, supporting each other through thick and thin until they finally built their empire. Where had it all gone wrong? How had they ended up like this? Just then Oilia walked in through the door. Seeing Fini sitting on the floor, completely crushed, she immediately rushed over to throw her arms around him. "Brother Finn, stop being sad. Isn't it a good thing that sister left? Now we can finally be together openly and honestly." Fini slowly lifted his head, his gaze fixed on the face that looked exactly like Willow's, and his heart was filled with an indescribable mix of emotions. After a long, agonizing moment, he suddenly stood up, shaking Oilia off him so roughly that she stumbled and fell to the ground. "Oilia, I'm warning you for the last time, Willow is my wife. She is now and she will always be. You merely stood in for her at the group celebration. That doesn't make you her replacement. The only reasons I helped you before were first because I thought you were truly pitiful, and second because I hoped this would give you and your sister a chance to reconcile. But instead of being grateful, you took advantage of my kindness and pushed your luck too far. Get out of here and never show your face in front of me again." Oilia stared at him from the floor, a flicker of unwillingness flashing in her eyes. She had never understood why, despite having the same face as Willow, everyone had always favored her sister since they were children. Their parents had passed away early, so she and Willow had both been raised by their grandparents. But the way their grandparents treated them was like night and day. They doted on Willow endlessly, eventually leaving her their entire fortune. As for her, they'd let her run wild, never bothering to discipline or care for her properly. Her miserable marriage had only fueled her jealousy of Willow to the point of madness. So she'd latched onto Fini. She truly believed she had won his heart. After all, he'd been willing to go to the absurd length of taking Willow's eyes just to please her. But now it seemed that all her efforts had been for nothing, a complete waste of time and energy. Before Oilia could say another word, Fini strode out of the room on his own, then roared at the top of his lungs. 7 From now on, Oilia is forbidden from stepping foot inside the Yi family villa ever again. You all better keep your eyes open, don't let just any Tom, Dick or Harry waltz in here. Days turned into nights and still Fini had not found a single clue about how I'd left or where I'd gone. At this moment he was hunched over his desk in the CEO's office, his eyes bloodshot and filled with nothing but pure, unadulterated despair. Just then his secretary knocked and entered the room. "Well, have you found Willow yet?" Fini shot up from his chair in an instant, rushing over to the secretary in a panic. The secretary could only shake his head helplessly. "Mr. Yi, do you think Madam might have found out the truth about everything? What exactly are you implying? Otherwise, why would she leave so resolutely? She must have been planning this for days if not weeks. How could this be possible? Everything had been done in complete secrecy. Everyone who knew the truth had either been paid off handsomely to keep their mouths shut, or sent abroad to live in exile. How could Willow have found out about any of it? He'd originally planned that once everything settled down he would take Willow abroad to travel, the trip she'd been dreaming of for years. They could buy a house in a quiet, secluded place, have lots of children and live out the rest of their lives in peace and contentment. But why had things taken such a disastrous turn? During the days he wasn't by her side, what had she heard? Had someone been spreading lies about him behind his back? His thoughts naturally turned to Oilia. But at this moment he had no time to dwell on anyone else, his only thought was to get his wife back. He was such a fool. For the sake of another woman, he'd ruined his own wife's life beyond repair. Once upon a time, after graduating from university, Willow could have gone to the United States with her grandparents to pursue further studies. But she'd given up that opportunity for him, choosing to stay by his side and help him build his business from scratch, enduring hardships that were never meant for her. They had once sworn an oath to heaven that they would never leave each other, loving one another until their hair turned white with old age. Yet he had broken that vow halfway, hurting her in the most unspeakable way possible. Tears of guilt welled up in Fini's eyes. At this moment he would have given anything to hold Willow in his arms and kiss her until his heart's content. "Mr. Yi, I warned you long ago, if you don't want people to know about your dirty deeds, don't do them in the first place. Besides, that Oilia Shin was never a good person, plain and simple. What kind of sister would ask her brother-in-law to cut out her own sister's eyes? How much hatred could there possibly be between them?" Fini shook his head in agony, as if a long-overdue realization had finally dawned on him. "Enough of this for now. Find out which state in the U.S. Willow's grandparents are living in. Willow must be with them." After the secretary left, Fini picked up his phone, his hands trembling so violently he could barely hold it steady. Their chat history ended 5 days ago. Going further back, it was filled with countless messages that Willow had sent him unilaterally. She loved sharing all the little, interesting things that happened in her life with him. Her messages were numerous, but his replies were always slow, often days apart. Sometimes he'd even found her messages annoying, deliberately ignoring them to avoid dealing with her. Now he hadn't heard a single word from her in nearly half a month, and the thought of it sent a searing pain shooting through his heart, making it feel like it was being torn apart piece by piece. "The moment I saw my grandparents, I threw myself into their arms and cried like a lost child." My grandmother cupped my face in her hands, her voice filled with heartache as she asked, "What exactly did Fini do to you?" I sobbed uncontrollably, barely able to catch my breath as I told them the entire story, every painful detail pouring out of me in broken fragments. "If he's treated you like this, then we have no choice but to repay him in kind, with a gift he'll never forget." My grandfather's voice was steady and heavy with resolve. I knew without a doubt that he would make things right for me no matter what it took. The second day after arriving in the United States, I was scheduled to undergo eye surgery. The operation was a resounding success. After half a month of recovery, my vision was completely restored. But on the very first day I regained my sight, I was faced with the last person I ever wanted to see. Oilia Shin was standing right in front of me. And sitting beside her were my grandparents. I was so overwhelmed by the shock and pain that I immediately covered my face and burst into tears. "My poor Willow, don't cry anymore. Grandpa has already punished her for what she did to you." I slowly lifted my head, finally taking a good look at the woman standing before me, and I barely recognized her. The Oilia Shin in front of me was a far cry from the one I'd left behind in China. "Her eyes have been taken out and returned to you. Your eyes are finally back where they belong," my grandfather said softly, his gaze gentle as he looked at me. Then he turned to Oilia Shin, his voice cold and stern as ice. "Oilia, you may leave now. From this day forward, you are no longer a member of the Shin family. Whether you live or die out there in the world, it has nothing to do with us anymore." As soon as the words left his mouth, Oilia Shin fell to her knees, sobbing hysterically as she begged for mercy. "Please, sister. Please, Grandpa. Forgive me just this once. I know I was wrong. I'll never dare to do anything like this ever again. Forgive her." I might have been able to find it in my heart to forgive her, but what about my unborn child? Could my child ever forgive her? I stared at her, my heart burning with rage, ready to unleash all my pent-up anger on her, when my grandfather's voice cut through the silence. "You brought all of this upon yourself. No one else is to blame. You've had a twisted, malicious heart since you were a child, always looking for ways to hurt others. The Shin family can no longer tolerate you. Leave and never let us see your face again, as if we never raised you." Later, Oilia Shin was sent back to China by my grandfather. He also froze all her bank accounts and credit cards, leaving her to fend for herself in the world with nothing. As for me, life in the United States settled into a peaceful, steady rhythm. I never paid any attention to the news from back home. But Fini was, after all, a high-profile figure. The Yi Group was a publicly traded company, so every move he made was under intense scrutiny. which meant that news of the Ye group teetering on the brink of bankruptcy reached my ears every single day. Netizens were ruthless in their comments. Fini built his entire career by leeching off a woman, and now he's turned his back on her? What a shameless man. Offending Shin Willow is the same as offending the entire Shin family. And offending the Shin family is like signing your own death warrant. If he'd known this would be the outcome, would he have ever dared to do what he did? Too little, too late. The next time I saw Fini was half a year later. He looked at least 10 years older than his actual age, haggard, worn out, and a shadow of his former self. Willow. Please forgive me. I don't care about anything anymore. I don't need the company, I don't need the money. All I want is you. I looked at him helplessly, then let out a bitter, hollow laugh. Fini. Do you really think there's any chance left for us? Willow, I know I was wrong, all of it was my fault. But I really do love you. I've always loved you. It was just an infatuation with Oilia Shin, a momentary lapse in judgment. You're the only one I've ever truly loved. Too little, too late. Love that comes after irreparable damage is cheaper than dirt. I have a clean, unyielding heart when it comes to love. Betray me once and you lose me forever. Oh, if you love me so much, then will you do me one small favor? At the sound of my words, a glimmer of hope flickered to life in Fini's eyes. He nodded eagerly, his voice trembling with desperation. Willow, anything. Name it. I'll climb mountains of swords and wade through seas of fire for you. I'll do anything you ask. What are you talking about? How could I ever bear to hurt you? Then, what is it you want? I want you to promise me one thing from this day forward, we will never see each other again in life or in death. With those words, I turned around and walked away without a single backward glance, leaving Fini standing there frozen in place. He stared after me, his eyes filled with heartbreak and regret, watching my figure disappear into the distance. He was filled with endless unwillingness, but there was nothing he could do to change my mind.